again, close to 80%, over 80% of the House and close to 80% of the Senate said, TikTok needs to be divested from its control by its Chinese ownership. As I've said many times here, the Chinese law dictates that Chinese companies, their top priority is not shareholders or their customers. It is the Communist Party of China. And this entity, while enormously popular, 170 million Americans average 90 minutes a day, the idea that they are collecting this kind of data, or potentially TikTok could be used as a propaganda tool, is enormously troubling. And as I said repeatedly, don't take my word for it. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said it's a national security concern. Virtually all of our intelligence community has said so. And every other major democracy in the world, in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, have all prohibited TikTok from their governmental devices. And the vast majority of major news organizations have said to their journalists, don't use TikTok, or chances are you could be surveilled by Chinese sources. And I think, again, over the year we've seen lots of stories from disgruntled former TikTok employees indicating that ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok, the Chinese company, continues to interfere. So I think this was a strong step forward. I hope now, with a year time, that we can have this transaction take place. As I've said before, a lot of creativity on TikTok. Folks make money off of it as social influencers. I got no problem with that. Just at the end of the day, the entity that controls the algorithm and that is potentially collecting the data ought to be not a national adversary of the United States in terms of the Chinese Communist Party. So I would be happy to help and ease in terms of these divestiture efforts, and I know people have already indicated interest in purchasing the company so that the kind of creativity can continue. The TikTok that we see is prohibited in China. American social media companies like Google and Facebook are prohibited in China. Yet this Chinese-controlled entity still has legal rights in America. They will have a right to bring this to the courts, but I believe this legislation has been drafted appropriately, and I've talked to lots of DOJ lawyers that it will withstand legal scrutiny. And the fact that the Chinese government is trying to say so much that this algorithm is so important, again, makes my case that this is a national security concern. If this was simply a corporate enterprise, then they should let this be sold and declare what a great victory and a great accomplishment of a Chinese tech company. But no, the Chinese government, through its proxies, I think are going to contest it. And I think at the end of the day, the law that was signed last night will stand the test of judicial scrutiny. The young people who use TikTok, or anybody who use TikTok, I hear your concerns. I agree there's a lot of creativity. I think it's great that people can make a living as social influencers. But at the end of the day, this entity should be controlled by not the Chinese Communist Party. It can be an American company, it can be a British company, it can be a Brazilian company. But the idea that if there wasn't a TikTok and we said to the American public, let's allow 170 million Americans' data to get swiped and scraped, or to put forward a propaganda tool that has more power than Fox News and MSNBC combined, would we say that's in our country's interest? We'd say absolutely not. And clearly China feels that way because they don't even allow American social media companies in. So I think there will be a divestiture. Let me also say that I know some have said, well, what about American social media? I think there ought to be guardrails on American social media companies. If we go back and you look at the level of mental health crises that has advanced so much, a lot of it traces back to 2012 when the smartphones came around, and young people and not so young people ended up burying their face in their phone all the day as opposed to interacting with other human beings. I actually hope this bill on TikTok will spur Congress to act in terms of kids' online safety. I think it's outrageous what all social media companies do in terms of kids' online safety. I think we need a privacy bill. I think we need to go ahead and have a fulsome debate on what's called Section 230, which basically gives all of these platforms a get-out-of-jail-free card about any of the content that's posted. We did a pretty crummy job in terms of putting guardrails on social media, and as as inappropriate as we were on those areas, my gosh, artificial intelligence is going to have potentially the power of social media times 10 or times 100. If we wait 5 to 10 years to put any guardrails on artificial intelligence, it could make what the social media mental health crisis look tiny in comparison.